Today's guest has built 5 different 7-figure businesses. He shares some learnings that helped all of them to grow. And then we dive deep on his latest venture. It wasn't a product he ever thought he would develop, but he'll explain why he chose it and many of the strategies that he has used to grow it to several $million in revenues.
Are you looking for new ways to make your sales grow? You've tried other podcasts, but they don't seem to know. Harvest the growth potential of your product or service as we share stories and strategies that'll make your competitors nervous. Now, here's the host of the Harvest Growth Podcast, John LeClaire.
Welcome back to the show. I'm really excited to be speaking with Cameron Taylor. He's the founder of Tail Mermaid. You got to check out this website. If you're watching the video, he's going to show you some of his products. If not, please go to the website and check it out. As you're going to hear, it's a really cool product line he's come up with, and he's had great success. But he also has some great stories behind both this business as well as other successful businesses that he's run. So again, really excited to have him on the show today and to dive into this interview. First of all, welcome to the show, Cameron.
Hey, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
So I mentioned you've run some other successful businesses in the past. I think the number is 5, if I remember right. This is the 5th business that you've hit 7 figures with, which is saying something. I got to tell you, I talked to a lot of serial entrepreneurs, but there's usually serial fail, win, right? Like you finally figure it out and great. That's part of the entrepreneurial journey sometimes. But the fact that you've had so many great successes along the way, and I think pretty diverse businesses, really speaks to something. We're going to focus most of the interview, as you know, on your current main product, or at least the current focus for our interview today. But if you could share, maybe what were the categories? What types of business did you run before your mermaid tail business?
Yeah, and I will tell you, I did have those failed businesses before the first successful businesses, and I think that's my favorite class in college was an entrepreneur lecture series at Brigham Young University, and I went to that every semester. Even after I graduated, I still went back and attended that class because it was just so fun to hear those entrepreneurs come back and tell their story. But that was one of the themes that I saw, was that they all had multiple failed businesses before they succeeded. And so as I graduated and started my entrepreneur venture, I said, okay, well, I'm going to try until it works. It was like the most that any of them said they had a failed business was 7. So I said, I'm going to try at least 7 businesses before I give up. And so luckily for me, it was my second business that succeeded. So the first business did fail, left me tens of thousands of dollars of debt. The next business that I was able to start was actually a national law firm that specialized in lawsuit protection, tax reduction, estate planning. And there was just a great need in the market. We developed a very unique marketing strategy to bring in new clients. Our clients were we started with physicians, and then I started another business with dentists and another business with business owners. That was 3 of the businesses, and each of those grew. We grew it from idea to $1 million a year, then $1 million a month, and then we had multi-million-dollar days. So there was just a huge demand in the marketplace. And so from that success, my dream was to write. I'm also the author of 12 books. And so when I exited that company that we built, the time I exited from the company, we were doing 100 million in sales, had 400 employees. And I took a writing sabbatical for 18 months to write a book called Does Your Bag Have Holes? 24 Truths That Lead to Financial and Spiritual Freedom. And I now have had 12 books. Several of them have become bestsellers, translated into dozens of languages. So that would be my next successful business that's grown into a 7-figure business, is then the book business and the speaking business. Also then doing some consulting work with different businesses as a part of that as well, where I've built successful businesses and sit on different boards of entrepreneur groups to give back, because there were so many that helped me get where I am. So I then had a friend that asked if I could build the company again that I built initially. And I was like, well, I've already done that. I want to do something new. But he said, I'll put up with the money. I'll pay you a salary and you'll be an owner. And so we rebuilt some of that company that I'd stepped away from. So that was then, and we have built it to where it was, over 7 figures a year. And then I was approached. So I've done a little bit of venture capital work. And I had a friend approach me about the idea for swimmable mermaid tails. And so good friend, neighbor, but they approached my wife first. And when she told me about it, so they want to meet with you about, helping them start and create this product and build this business. I was like, well, what is it? I was like, well, it's swimmable mermaid tails. I was like, well, that is so different than anything that I've done. I was like, I really don't have any interest in being a merman or becoming King Triton. And so, but I was like, well, I'll have to come in and I'll visit with them. And as they presented the idea, I started doing some research. And as I started to look, I was like, there was massive searches for mermaid tails, and there was very little in the marketplace at that time. And so it piqued my interest. And I did have on my goal list that I wanted to have a patent. And I did want to do some product development, something different that I hadn't done. And so I was like, let's try it, and I think that's the concept that really got me to do it is a concept I call the ugly Christmas sweater principle. And so there was an employee, he worked in search engine optimization, SEO work. And as he was doing this work, he saw this massive search in November, December for ugly Christmas sweaters. And millions of searches for this. And then as he looks into it, he starts to see, well, there's really no one in that marketplace selling ugly Christmas sweaters. So he actually quit his, 6-figure paying job and said, I'm going to start a business, bought uglychristmassweater.com, becomes, if anyone's searching for that, he's now first in the ranking and started selling ugly Christmas sweaters and became a multimillionaire selling ugly Christmas sweaters. So I found in my different businesses, if I find a business where the market is pulling me, where I'm just fulfilling something someone's already searching for, it's much easier than when I have to try to find the people or convince people that they want my product. And so when I saw that with the mermaid tails, I was like, wow, we just have to, one, we can create a better product than anything that's out there. But two, to be able to then just capture that search that's already there. And so in those early days, after our product development and, getting the patent and perfecting the product, but those early days were very profitable because we spent almost no money on advertising. So as we came up very high in Google and back in those days, it was like more people searched on Google than Amazon. We've been in business now for 10 years. And I've seen that every year, more and more that shift has gone from beginning their search on Google to beginning their search on Amazon. But again, when we launched on Amazon, there was very few people on there. But again, you're already just capturing people that are searching for this product. And so that's what really intrigued me, that I was like, okay, well, I can, we can build this business. We'll have the money in the product development and inventory costs, but initially we should have, minimal cost in the advertising and client acquisition side.
It's a great story. A lot of my career, we've been launching new products and services for, in this business, 17 years. And it's, become kind of a specialty of ours. And we're many times fighting upstream, right? Because they're new and unique products that no one's ever heard of. They're not necessarily searching for, and it does fill a need people have, but they're not looking for the product. And we figured out how to do it, right? And the nice thing is when you can cross the chasm and, get the word out in a profitable way, and growth can explode, but it costs money, right? You've got to market it. You can't just take advantage of existing demand that already exists. And I love, maybe many of our listeners that might be toying with an idea, or maybe a way to think about their business differently, right? But how do you captivate? Where do you find the demand for your existing business, or for maybe a new product or service that you're thinking about coming out with? It may already exist. And if you can kind of like get into the stream, right, with a unique way of doing it, a unique offering, but really meeting that demand, it can make it easier, right? And kind of going with the flow of the business, as it were.
And there are some good tools out there to find that. So even just like with Google AdWords, they have all the data of billions and billions of searches. They know what people are searching for, and you also can show how competitive those searches are. So it gives you an idea of kind of the volume of the market potential. There are market realities. You see people enter in different markets. And I'm going to do this. I was like, well, there are market realities that you have to study and find out to say, okay, how much demand is there for this? But some of those tools that are out there, and Amazon has, again, all the data on there where you can look to see, is there these searches that I can capture? But like you said, with our asset protection business, we were kind of a unique thing. My partner in that business is called the father of asset protection. He kind of created the industry because his father was sued, lost everything, and he kind of was creating the industry, and he couldn't take any more clients, but he saw this huge demand for it. And so, and that's where we then had to figure out, well, how can we get this message out to other people? So we had to come up with it, because it wasn't just people weren't just going to come to us and say, hey, I need this done. They didn't even know it existed initially, right? So we developed some very unique marketing strategies through education, through seminars, where we could teach them about the concepts and the legal structuring that we set up. And then once we perfected that process, we say, okay, well, if we can get our target audience in the room and we can talk to them for 1 to 2 hours and just provide the education, a percent of those become our clients. And then it was, built into a, multi-million-dollar business. So, I mean, you can make it work both ways. But now, as that industry is developed, there are now people that search for asset protection. And again, you see in that business, when we first started, not a whole lot of competition, but as people see success, there was then got to where, like we're now, I'm still doing that business that I rebuilt, after leaving that one and rebuilding it, which it's still going and still profitable. Now 20 years later. But there is now people searching for asset protection. It is now a term that people search for when they weren't, 30 years ago. And so my best-selling book on Audible, I did a book for our clients, interviewed all our top experts, and we did a book on asset protection. It was just for our clients. I was like, hey, what if I just release this on Audible and just see how it does? No marketing, no nothing. It became my top seller because it was capturing all the people searching for that term. Now, one of my other best-selling books is 8 Attributes of Great Achievers. That book has sold hundreds of thousands of copies all throughout the world. But they have to be looking. People aren't just looking for 8 Attributes of Great Achievers. It's not a search term that people are looking for, unless they're looking specifically for my book, right? But now with the asset protection book, I just stuck it on there, and we started getting hundreds and hundreds of sales, and just capturing people that were searching for that topic and wanting to know, okay, how do I protect my assets from lawsuits? How do I minimize my taxes? How do I set up my estate? So I was like, okay, now I see an opportunity here in writing where I can say, okay, well, let me write to try to satisfy some of these needs or things people are searching for. But also I write, books on, different, success topics and other things there. But then you have to market them or they don't sell. So yes, you can succeed both ways. But yes, I do like the businesses where I just capture the business that they're already searching for.
Well, yeah, and I think it's like, not every business is going to be like that, I think. But if you can, again, find the flow and find your way into it, so you're not always going upstream. If you're not trying to create demand, right? If there's a true need for your product or service, they may not know exactly your product exists, as you mentioned, right? Or what it's called, or that's where marketing comes in, making that connection to the need. But really, understanding the true need of your consumer, your buyer, makes the marketing easier, certainly more profitable as well. I want to dive into competition because that world has changed a little bit for the Tail Mermaid company since you originally started. But before we do, let's talk about the product itself. So just those in our audience that may not be familiar with what a swimmable mermaid tail is. I know you've got one. If you're anybody who's watching the video, you could show us what it looks like, of course. For all those other ones, while he's grabbing that, go to suntailmermaid.com. You can see it. But if you could describe what it is.
Yeah. So So there's a few components to it. So again, the monofin is a swim fin, but it's designed so that both feet fit together into one fin. So a lot of fins you see are two fins where you have one on each feet and you kind of flutter kick, where a monofin is designed with 2 foot pockets to keep your feet together, and then it becomes more of the dolphin swim, right? Or butterfly stroke, or the mermaid stroke, right? So we help people become mermaids. And so developing the monofin, there was a Finis is a big swim company, developed all kinds of fins, and they had developed a monofin, but it was all plastic and it would cause blisters and other problems. We said, okay, well, we want to solve that problem. And so we came up with a design that was very comfortable. We developed a mold for the injection molding for this part of the fin. But we actually hired engineers, we hired divers, we hired swimmers to test it, because we said we want to have a product that is not only fun, transforms people into mermaids, but we said we want a fin that will provide the most comfort, control, and proportion. So again, you have to define what you want your product to do. And so we're looking at all the products that existed out there. And it's like, well, there's no product that really does all these things really well. And we think we can solve these problems. So we tested a lot of different versions, and we had different, market testers that would test it and would see how it hold up and see how the propulsion was. And so developing the product is fun. I mean, we're designed to create. That's what, and so I think a lot of people, whatever it is that you're creating, it's just fun to create something, whether it's a book or building a business, but creating a physical product was fun too, to see the molds and the designs that all come together into a product. So then on that product, you have then just a fabric tail. So you'll see inside here, you then have a fabric tail that pulls over that monofin, and then as they pull that up over them, gives them that look of a mermaid. So there's a shot, and yeah, they can obviously see on the website with the different mermaids who've been transformed. And so as we developed the product, one of the first things that we noticed is that they would swim, as they're swimming in pools, a lot of concrete pools, they'd get holes, in the tips of the tails. That was our number one problem, number one reason for returns, number one reason for dissatisfaction. So what? For every problem, there's a solution, right? So we say, okay, we got to fix that problem. Initially, we had a quick solution. We had waterproof tape that the customers could kind of tape on the ends. It didn't look the best, but it did kind of work. Eventually, it would come up, but it kind of worked. Where we was like, okay, we got to get something better. And we tested all kinds of different materials, and eventually came up with a very proprietary process to put this film on here. You can rub this on cement for an hour and it won't wear through. And so, yeah, we've seen tails where they've used them for years and now no wear on those tips. And so fun that we have our staff right here in our shop that puts these on, and yeah, it's fun to then see that problem solved and see happy mermaids. That's what we want, is happy mermaids, and then increased sales and fewer returns and better reviews. And so that's the product. So we have it in a lot of different colors and sizes. We initially started with the child sizes, and we have so many requests from teens and adults that we developed teen and adult sizes. And now we sell as many teen and adult sizes as we do child sizes. And so it's so fun to now see the moms and daughters swimming together, and the mom now living their dream of being a mermaid that they didn't know was ever possible, that now they're like, oh, I can be a mermaid. I always wanted to be a mermaid since I was a little girl, and my little girl wants to be a mermaid, and now they're mermaids together. And so it's been a lot of fun, and so I never would have thought I would be in the mermaid business, but it's been a really fun business to just see the happiness and joy it brings our customers as they use the product.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that story. A couple of things I want to note for the listeners is, we originally started off by, okay, you found an opportunity. People are searching for a product that doesn't exist. Okay, it's easy, right? So there's still a lot of work that goes into it. It's kind of like that question, like, oh, I had that idea. I could have made millions too, or whatever, right? But there's still the effort of, you got to make a great product, right? You got to listen to the customer. It's not as simple as like, okay, turn a button on. But the nice thing is it's a lot of fun. As you said, it's so tangible working with consumer products like this, that as you hear a problem, you can figure out a solution, right? Whether that's a product change, like the tips of the tails, or whether that's a marketing challenge or whatever it might be, that's part of the fun of the business. Ultimately, it's just that when you're, no pun intended, but swimming in the stream along with the demand, it makes it a little bit easier along that process for sure. But of course.
Yeah. And that's the one thing that I see, one of the mistakes that people will make. It's like, I'll have people approach me and it's like, oh, well, I just lost my job. I'm going to start a business. I was like, well, when do you need money by? And they're like, well, like next month. I was like, well, you're going to have to get a job. We can build something on the side. But even with this business where we were capitalizing on a market, again, we also did the research to see, will people pay for the product? Because there may be the demand for that, but are they willing to pay? It's like, it's got to be 4 times manufacturing costs. So you're saying, okay, it's going to cost me this much to make. Is the customer willing to pay at least 4 or 5 times what it cost me to make it? So yeah, you can sell products all day at a loss, but I've always found business is more fun if you make money. But
True.
So as we looked at that, it was a product that people were like, we've gone into other markets with, like, we have, leggings that are matching colors, that are mermaid leggings, but that is such a competitive market, and trying to get people to pay a price where I can get the same margins I get with the mermaid tails doesn't happen. So I just can't come up with any, mermaid product and compete. It was also a very much more competitive space in the legging space, and it's still a great product. Customers like it, but it's very, very, very small percent of our sales. At the price point we sell it at, and I'm not going to sell it at the price points to compete with everyone else in that marketplace, as it just wouldn't make us any money. But in that planning, and since I've had the success with the other businesses, it's nice to be able to have the cash flow to be able to develop the business, but also to have the plan to say, hey, we set aside, it ended up costing, hundreds of thousands of dollars in product development and inventory, to launch the business. And we didn't have all the advertising costs either in there. So I see that's one mistake that people make. They don't have the plan in place to say, okay, do you have the funding you need to be able to develop the product that you need to get the intellectual property protection that you need, but then also get the inventory you need, to actually launch. And again, even when I'm doing, I've built a lot of businesses. I'm pretty good at getting timelines and costs, and I usually double them. So whatever my estimates is, I double the time and I double the cost, and then I'm usually about right. So
right. Yeah, very true.
And that is how it works. And again, it still took, before this business was positive cash flow, it was still pretty fast, but we didn't have positive cash flow until really year 3, right? And then, then you're able to pay back that investment. I funded it all with money I had. So, but again, I still look at the return on investment. I don't look at a return until I have 100% of that money that I put into the business back before I consider it a dollar of profit, right? So that's one thing that was good, that we had those. And it's a seasonal business, very seasonal. So we do obviously sales are super high in the summer, Christmas. It's a wonderful gift item. And so if you have someone who is have a birthday coming up, or for Christmas coming up, you get a mermaid tail, and that's one of our most common reviews is, best gift I've ever given or received. Is you see the open box videos, and the little girls just light up. They're so excited when they get this as a gift. But you have to then have the cash flow in those other months. So in even those early years, even when we got to where we're doing 7 figures a year, we'd have cash flows great in the summertime. But then when you're in the wintertime, when you're then stocking up for the next summer, there was times I was still putting 20, 30, 40,000 a month into the business in January, February, March, which are the slowest months of the business. But then March was usually the worst cash flow because you have all the inventory you're stocking up, so to make sure you have everything for summer. And so if a business isn't preparing for that cash flow, that not everyone just has an extra 40 grand a month sitting around that they say I can put in the business or get a loan, or banks will give you money when you don't need it, but they won't give it to you when you need it. That's usually how it works. So
very true. So let's talk about competition, because you mentioned in the early days you brought this out because you looked and there's a lot of demand, not a lot of supply, or not a lot of competition. And that's certainly changed now, right? So you went from, I think, a couple of kind of competitors that were low quality, didn't really do the same thing. So almost no competition in the very early days. Now fast forward a few years, and I think you told me you have over 1,000 competitors on Amazon. Is that correct?
Yeah, there would have been about that. Probably I had a market research done about 2 years ago, and just want to see because just everything was getting so much more competitive on Amazon. And like when we put it on Amazon, of course we were on the first page. Mermaid Tales didn't even fill up a page on Amazon. I mean, that's a space you're like, hey, this is a space I like to be in. It's like there's not even enough products to fill the page. And now, when I did that market research, I said, well, how many different sellers are there of Mermaid Tales on Amazon? It was 1,200. And when we launched on Amazon, also to just see the evolution of Amazon, those first years on Amazon, you know how much money I spent on advertising on Amazon? 0. Because one, Amazon didn't have all the paid placement like they do now. And that's slowly grown, and our fee that Amazon took when we first went on Amazon was 10%. It's now 18, plus all the other expenses. But just right off the top, it was 10. Now it's 18. You still have a lot of other fees in there that they take. But you start seeing, but one of the big fees that the competition created, because again, I always look at doing our search engine optimization, make sure that we're in those top searches on Google. But again, as more and more people are searching on Amazon, we also had to make sure we had the SEO on Amazon, that we're showing up for all those key terms on Amazon. And as I'm monitoring that, so every week we just have a sheet that would show where we rank for our key search terms. And we dropped off the first page on Amazon. I was like, what's happening? We're not on the first page on Amazon anymore, and our sales go down. And so as I start looking into it, I probably should have caught a lot sooner. But again, I build the businesses to where they're designed to run without me. And so, but I would check different things. So I'm checking this and I'm seeing that. I was like, well, there now had been all this paid placement, and now on like a page on Amazon, half of the space you see on a page on Amazon is all paid. It's at least half is all paid. And in order to stay on the first page, you have to advertise on Amazon, because one of the main algorithms to show up in the natural search is sales volume. And if you aren't advertising, you're not going to get the sales volume to stay on page 1. And if you're not on page 1 of the natural search, once you drop to page 2, 3, 4, you're just going to keep dropping. You're going to be gone. So that's when we started doing advertising on Amazon to then make sure that we were showing up on the first page in the paid placement, but then it also kept us on that first page for the natural search as well. So I try to design it to where now on there, about half of our sales come from our ads, but half of our sales still come from our natural search. So I try to get a 5 times return. So for every $1 I spend, I get $5 in sales. But since I'm also getting another $5 in sales from the natural search, because those sales I get from paying for those ads and getting those sales keeps me ranked higher for all the natural searches. So I end up spending about 10%. So every $1 million in sales we do on Amazon, I spend $100,000 in advertising on Amazon. Well, it was nice. Those years before we had all that competition, I spent zero. So our profit went down 10% there, because for every million I did, we spent zero in advertising on Amazon. Now for every million, I spent 100,000 in advertising. That's just a hard expense. That's just off. And Amazon went from charging 10% off the top to 18% plus other fees. It's easily gone to 20, and so you have to then figure out, okay, how to then try to still have the margins to be profitable and still compete with the 1,200 other sellers. And part of that is that you don't always have to be the least expensive option. That there is, people will pay for quality, durability. One of the things we did is I knew we had a product that was very durable. And in order to communicate that to the customer, we did a year warranty with free replacements for your monofin. So you have any rip, break, tear, no questions asked, we send you a free mermaid tail monofin. Now, again, are any of those other low-cost products doing that? No. And you see in the reviews, the other things, the reviews, we have a 4.6 rating on our products on Amazon with thousands of reviews. That's hard to do. You have to have a good product and good customer service in order to do that. And so that helps us in the competition as people are looking. The ones see, okay, this company's been around for a while. They have thousands of great reviews from customers. We have great product photos and videos. But then putting that warranty in there was like, we believe in our product. This isn't, and you can buy the $40 product and may last you a couple weeks and really won't function for swimming in the water like ours were. That's where ours really stands apart. Because like what I was saying, like with the fabric mermaid tail is not a big barrier to entry. Someone could actually just, these are unique designs that we make and print. So all our designs are 100% unique, but our first ones, we just actually bought different material and sewed it together, and that was ordered different colors and different things. And so someone could do that. You could have just a fabric tail in a week. You get some fabric and cut it out, sew it together. But the monofin is a bigger barrier to entry, and that's been our real where we can compete in the marketplace. One, it's more expensive. We have spent tens of thousands of dollars in engineering and to build the molds, to make the injection molds for that, and then like our neoprene on our monofins is thicker than anyone else in the industry. And so we just have, a better quality product, try to do better customer service, and say, well, I'm not going to try to compete with that low end product. And that will fit a need of some of the people in the marketplace. But those who really want to be able to swim and have control and have durability and have a product that will last, and we were able to still capture our share of the market and have continued to do well. Although the increased competition has brought prices down, has brought that advertising cost up, so the margin has shrunk, but we still have kept it to where it still is. We still have a good profitable margin that makes it work. And now that we've made it for 10 years and with 1,200 competitors in there, we're going to be around for decades to come. But I have seen there's a couple of the big mermaid companies that were kind of in those early days. Yeah, they've gone out of business. They didn't make it. So.
And part of it comes back to, I think, we've talked a lot about quality, right? And unique features and, constantly being in touch with your customer to understand what their needs are, et cetera. And, staying one step ahead of the competition, right? So people can copy, companies can copy, they'll catch up eventually to your version today. So your version tomorrow needs to be better, right? That's just a good general paradigm for most products. When you're close to your customer, when you're concerned and care about quality, you can do that, right? So that's what helps you to stay one step ahead. Well, Cameron, this has been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot in this interview. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think could be helpful for our audience?
Well, I think one concept, I was like, when I was first doing the mermaid business, I would tell people I was just in the swim industry. I didn't want to tell people I was in the mermaid business, but as I started doing it and I started to see the impact that we're having with all of my companies, we're mission driven, and that's why I say it's not so much what you do, but how you do it. We want to follow, true principles. We want to take care of our customers. We want to take care of our employees. We want to be a place. I was like, I'm going to treat each of the people that work with me like I would my mom, and same with my customers. I was like, well, if I would do that to my mom, I'm not going to do it to a customer. I'm not going to do it to an employee. And so we want it to be an environment where people want to work here and they know we follow good, true Christian principles in how we interact with them and others. But we also always have a focus on mission. And when I first seen it, I was like, well, what mission are we going to have with Mermaid Tales? But as we started looking at it and you start seeing, it's like our mission statement is we make the world a happier place, one mermaid tail at a time. So again, with our staff, it's like, we're not just making a plastic fin. You're not just filling boxes. You're filling dreams. Every box that goes out, you're filling a little girl's dream. And we show them the video. We make the new videos with unboxing. It's like, you see that girl that just opened her Christmas present or her birthday present, and you see that smile on her face. You helped build that. You helped fulfill that. And so again, it's so fun. Like, we'll get a note on our orders if it says a birthday. Our staff will hand make them a birthday card with mermaid or do different stickers, and they'll say, happy birthday from Tail Mermaid. And it's so fun to see. We often get responses back to the customers like, we can't believe your staff's making us birthday cards. But they know, I was like, they want to make that experience for the customer special, because they're not just fulfilling an order. They're not just doing a job. They're making the world a happier place, one mermaid tail at a time. We also give a lot of that, as an entrepreneur, you're able to give back. And so in whatever business I'm doing, we try to give back. And we've been able to partner with Make-A-Wish Foundation, other charities, where we're able to give mermaid tails away. So we give away hundreds of mermaid tails, every year to different causes, different organizations. And I remember one of those, there was a little girl who was in a hospital bed and she couldn't even go to the water, but she still wanted to be a mermaid. And so we sent her mom a free mermaid tail for her daughter, as her wish was she wanted to be a mermaid. And she sent us a picture of her little girl, the hospital bed with tubes. But that little girl had a huge smile on her face as she was transformed into a mermaid. And her mom sent us that picture, and she said, it's the first time I've seen her smile in months. I said, thank you. So we then share that with the staff. Say, we can bring a little joy and happiness to a little girl who's going through some pretty tough things in a hospital bed. And so whatever business you're in, you can do it in a way that lifts the lives of your employees, lifts the lives of your customers, and makes the world a better place for everybody.
I love that. That's such great advice. And thanks for sharing that story as well. It does remind me, I think I need to do a better job, and probably most businesses that are listening to so we talk so much about connecting to our customer, our consumer, whatever it might be, understanding how they're benefiting from our product or service or our business. And oftentimes we may get that, but we don't always share it with our employees. I love that you talked about how, sharing these experiences with your entire team, it helps every single role to understand, if they're doing the accounting for your company, they still have an impact, right, on these little girls' lives, for example, right? So I love that. That's a great thing to share, and I think great advice for all of us to think about. How do we get our teams involved, not just ourselves, but really connecting with how we're benefiting those around us through the businesses that we have, right? We're all in this, as entrepreneurs, to really help others, right? Growing a business is part of the fun and part of the journey, but at the end of the day, it's about helping more people in various ways, right? Whatever our business might be. I do want to tell our audience, please visit suntailmermaid.com. You can find it in the show notes. If you're driving, go check it out later. You'll find the URL, but go check it out. You can see this line of products. You can find them on Amazon, but the whole selection's at suntailmermaid.com. And I also want to mention, did you know you can meet with a member of my team absolutely free for a 30-minute strategy consultation? We've launched and grown hundreds of products since 2007. We learned some of our strategies while growing OxyClean back in the Billy Mays days. We're here to help. So please go to harvestgrowth.com and set up a call if you'd like to discuss further.